Welcome to day 2 of the Øredev debrief week. This week we're releasing a chat with a keynote speaker at Øredev 2023 each day. Today I talk to Galit Ariel about all the positive directions set by Star Trek, uninspired visions for the future, and a whole lot more. And as usual, links to Galit's keynote and everything else we talk about are in the show notes. Enjoy! Welcome to the smaller stage, Galit.
Small is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
My whole family is tiny. I'm the tallest in my family, so I appreciate... Yeah, I know. We should start a circus, really. Oh, I'm not kidding. You hear she's laughing. I'm like, my mom, my grandma.
Oh, it's a nice little scale as well.
I'm the tall one. I'm like, come on, I'll tell you what's going on in the world.
So, yeah, we'll when we release this as a podcast, we'll have the keynote and everything linked in the show notes.
Awesome.
So, if you want to summarize part of it, it's fine. If you don't, we can just... skip around anywhere.
Sure.
But I was a bit curious.
Just a little bit? Be very curious.
Like a big,
Go big.
I'm gesturing wildly here, like a relatively small bit in the scale of the universe. So how did you end up doing this stuff that you do now?
It's Star Trek.
Yeah, it's
no, seriously,
simple.
Star Trek. Growing up in a very, very small town with not much to do. Actually, all I had was science fiction, and in some weird way, the one channel we had was picking up on a specific, I think it was like Saturday, 4 p.m. There was Star Trek. Original OG Star Trek, and I saw Spock, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? As a child, and I started watching Star Trek, and for me, it was quite an amazing show because of a lot of reasons. Because first of all, it showed diversity that wasn't screened before. You know, people of color, women in command, aliens that are welcome. So it was quite an amazing paradigm to experience with a very hegemonic, white, mediocre space. And looking at science fiction in terms of space exploration and not colonialization.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this idea that you can make technologies that really benefit every species, everything, is probably what set up my mind on what technology should be. Yeah. And you know, and especially the holodeck, you know.
Oh, yeah.
The holodeck for me was this idea, again, coming from this small, super, super boring space that nothing really happened. The idea that you could step into alternative realities and create alternative realities was very fascinating for me. And when I was old enough, I actually went to study design. And at the time, it was the 90s. There weren't, differentiated disciplines. So I went to study industrial design, but I was focusing on human-computer interaction and trying to understand how technologies that emerge can be and should be used. And these were actually the years, very formative years, the 90s.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't think about it, but VR, virtual reality and augmented reality and interactive technology was just birthing and bursting with possibilities. And I was so excited.
Yeah.
And
it's going to happen anytime now.
No, I wasn't kidding myself. I was like, everything is going to be. I never am. I never consider technology. Actually, if you look at Star Trek, technology is very embedded, very hidden, very controlled, and understood as something that is a tool and not the purpose, except of the Borgs, right? But it is, I have researched a lot. I have every reference for the holodeck, for example. And there's a lot of directives there that are really related on how to protect people in virtual spaces, right? So who is allowed to step into it or not, or to intervene or program it? How long should you stay there? Very, very, I want to say, thought-through concept of how it might affect you.
Yeah.
How to treat someone that is getting addicted to virtual spaces.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about it right now. We're saying, we'll just throw it.
Let's see what happens.
They'll figure it out. What's the worst that can happen? Which the answer is always the worst that can happen will happen.
Yeah.
And more likely the weird that can happen will happen.
But it's fascinating how much thought the creators of Star Trek have put in.
Yeah.
I mean, in particular, because that doesn't feel like the common thing to do.
No.
It's like, let's paint a cool dystopia, and then someone will go, I want to build that part.
Yeah, I think the whole paradigm of Star Trek in general, and this is why it is my preferred. I love science fiction, all of it, all the strands of it. They're all useful. They are all there to teach us a lot about ourselves and a lot about what we think the other is.
Yeah.
Right. Most science fiction. I actually built a course around science fiction, and as a political tool of otherness.
Yeah.
So in science fiction, you normally have, the conflict is between normally humanity and the other can be nature, the other can be technology, the other can be biology, the other can be robotic, artificial intelligence, but it's always like, normally, I won't say the formula is normally this, us and them, right? You have alternative, of course, I'm talking about Western science fiction. I highly recommend to read Asian science fiction that is coming up now, really fascinating new ways of narrative creation and building, where technology is not the hard-on or the core of it. Afrofuturism, of course, alternative feminist science fiction. But let's say the mainstream, what we call science fiction, or what we apply for technological innovation, is the mainstream white, Western science fiction.
Yeah.
So all the warnings are there.
Yeah.
All the knowledge is there, and yet we're like, oh my God, that was awful. Let's make it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I find it very bizarre, and let's make it exactly like that.
Yeah.
Even, I don't say that word, so you can complete it. But just like Voldemort, I think certain words shouldn't be repeated because they can become reality. The M word, you know what I'm talking about? The M word, virtual shopping mall thing. And the whole excitement that came around this, and of course, I'm very pro virtual spaces. I'm like, I can't wait.
Yeah.
But what it was, and still is, it was a digital, like a 3D shopping mall. Yeah. It was like, hey, let's go there and buy stuff and NFT it. And
except you have no legs.
And I'm like, this is so boring. Yeah. Why are we creating? Like the times that I spent on the verse, I was, if I went to see content, it was virtual lecture halls with virtual PowerPoint presentations on the back, and I was like, why would we take the worst things
Let's
and
have
just
meetings.
put all this energy to re-experience them with like connectivity issues and disembodied and why? It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Not that I don't believe in virtual spaces. I think
that's a different thing.
Fantastic thing, but this is not it. No. This gloss over marketing stunt is just not it for me.
Yeah, I mean, is it just me, or does it feel like the last few little, hype waves around tech have been lacking in imagination or something like that? I'm going to make virtual meetings. I'm going to make...
there's Excel sheets.
Yeah, imagine if you could have a spreadsheet in here, in the room with us right now.
I wrote a book about, specifically augmented reality, but I was like, kind of like laughing about it. And that was like 2017 it came out. I'm like, you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to do a virtual Excel sheet. How exciting it is. And yes, they've done it. And I'm like, wow, there's nothing more I want to do.
This is the crown of
do my accounting. Not only do I want to do it, I want to do it on virtual space. It's like, the love. I think hype waves always happen. Again, we were talking about the 90s, where I actually think there was a lot of more exciting applications of augmented and virtual reality. It was experimental. It was in labs, in the boring academia, but it was a lot more interesting than what I'm seeing right now. And I think, where we're stuck, the bottleneck of technology at large is that it became so big and so profitable. It can't afford anymore to be anything but mainstream and immediately profitable.
Yeah.
What I see in R&D, you can call it innovation hubs all you want, is like how to accelerate ideas to bring them to market. It's no longer, the interesting things are not happening in commercial spaces. because you have shareholders and you have to be a unicorn in year 3, right? So it forces real innovation, experimentation, and failure out of the paradigm. You go for the safe, the profitable, the monetized immediately.
Yeah.
So it's boring.
Yeah.
It's just boring.
Yeah, it's depressingly boring. I mean,
it's depressingly boring if you're there. I can't. I'm not there personally. It's a life choice.
Yeah.
But it's not for everyone. It's not.
No.
But even in universities, for example, universities are commercial businesses now, as we know, and they're very much dependent on collaboration with industries, or they're striving to become relevant. And I'm saying relevant, I'm doing air quotes for relevant, because of course, academia should be relevant to some point. In some points, I want to say it doesn't have to be relevant to the now. Not always.
No.
It can be relevant to the past that we ignored, and the future. It doesn't always have to stay in the present and be reactive, because then it's not independent anymore. It's just reactive. But I see that in universities as well, that experimentation is allowed within the financing and support of highly commercial bodies.
Yeah, you have to
it's a problem.
You have to get a grant from someone and make it sound interesting to someone.
Well, you have to make it commercial.
Yeah.
There's no more research, at large. And again, I'm not in computer science. I'm looking at new media. My research is in new media. So it's more on the artistic side. And even there, there's a push towards but if that was to be a product, I'm like, but it ain't. That's the point.
Yeah,
I'm pushing I'm trying to figure out the non-product aspect, the experimental, the marginal things, that maybe they'll become profitable, maybe not, but that can't be the point of my research.
No, it might be useful to everyone in the world, but not make a profit, because you have to give it to people.
Yeah. Most of the technologies, most of the innovation that is, not most, but a lot of innovation that is now mainstream, super commercial, never started with that intent. It was an afterthought at times. It was an error, a glitch. Yeah. And yet it survived. Yeah. But in a foolproof, super tested, no glitch environment, you're missing out on all these marginal things that could be great and amazing and pivotal for our behaviors.
Yeah. Or just general little improvements for everyone. Yeah. I mean, everything doesn't have to be revolutionary.
Yeah. And even when it is, autonomous cars, it doesn't always work, and you can test it all you want. You can keep testing it; it's not going to work. And even
testing with you in it.
Keep testing and keep not telling people the results of the test. We know, some of us know the truth. And let's say, let's talk about autonomous cars like that was. I'm saying was because I can see it being kind of slightly taken away from mainstream hopes of this is the future of driving. No one's going to want to drive ever. I live in North America. I used to live in Europe. I live in North America, and most of, I want to say, autonomous car push was, of course, from American car industry. Because let's admit it, nothing new happened in cars since what, the 30s? Yeah. Same engine, maybe slightly better fuel consumption, better interiors. It comes in different colors, still 4 doors. The car industry is the car industry. Yeah, it's selling us, the need to have more cars, and of course, it's a very important industry for North America, also for Europe, but North America for sure. And they needed something new eventually, and it was automated self-driving cars, but it didn't work. It didn't work. Let's pretend its computer vision is perfect, and it can decide which person to run over, which is a better person to run over than the other. Let's leave the ethical and technological nonsense. Let's say it would work. Yeah. Right? The idea that all humans just want to be driven from A to B is ridiculous, especially if you know American car culture. I think they like their cars. I think so.
Yeah, maybe.
The idea that you won't have to actually drive, so you can do all the amazing things that you can do while driving, which is what I don't know. yeah, you can scroll your phone instead of driving. I'm like, oh my God, just stay home. Stay home.
Or get on the bus.
And then it shifted into like, but then you can do like services of automated cars. And I'm like, isn't it public transport?
Yeah, that's...
Wouldn't it be better to invest in public transport instead of the Ubers and the electric cars of the world? Because that's where they're going anyways. Because guess what? Uber, the service economy, guess what it did? Did it reduce traffic congestion? No, it increases it by 12% in average. So, this freedom actually got us into a much bigger traffic jam in more emission, in actual this gig economy of like these Uber drivers that are trying to get a €1, $1 tip for a 15-minute work. I'm like, you didn't solve a problem, you solved a discomfort and created a bigger problem with your solution. So
we're calling it progress.
It is different.
Yeah, it's change.
It's different. And this is also part of the reason where I think sometimes the quality of innovation and technology is decreasing, because this urge of this acceleration need, like we need a new technology, we need it now, we need it quick, and we need it to catch on with everyone before it's tested. And we just release a lot of junk. We create a lot of volume of junk with very little value. The actual innovation, the actual innovators, the actual developers, the coders, the geniuses get sucked out of the system because they're not monetary quickly enough. And we have the, no offense if anyone here is doing marketing, but I think that the technology realm became a marketing stunt over a technology, innovation, creation, experimentation. It's how quickly you can brand it and sell it and get VC money and get it to everyone right now. It's how well you can jump between technologies and predict the market and have the buzzwords. It's not about the technology anymore. No, not at all.
No. I'm hoping there's someone out there who someday writes the story of what's going on inside of Microsoft right now with regard to like building stuff in and releasing it quickly, like this current crop of generative AI tools. And we have to build them everywhere, into everything at once.
I can't comment on it. I worked with them, and their work. I'm gonna say things without saying them. Microsoft is an interesting company because it's a company that shifted from this like really beige. I want to say the beige. Oh yes. The years of the beige. A lot of years, and started becoming interesting, like really interesting. Even in design. And I'm like, I'm a Mac person. No. I have to say, even in design, I could look at their stuff and I didn't have any gag reaction. I'm like, that's actually pretty nice. And it actually works, and it's a decent price. And they've put a lot of work into their ethics and development, and their research is class A. Really, I'm saying it, after like,
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through the same...
Yeah, they became a really interesting company that is sustainable, that is, I want to say, stable. And I'm like, this is great.
Yeah, this is cool. This is promising.
And again, I always look at the hires. And they brought in John Maeda, and the moment they brought him, I was like, it's donezo. Not because I don't respect him, as a person, but I always look at like executive hires. Who are they bringing? Are they bringing the creators? Are they bringing the marketeers? Are they bringing the buzzword people? What is their perspective? What is their power? And that can shift a whole kind of like steady progress into this buzz. Like, we have to go here, and like you said, and not just them, Google and Microsoft and Apple at the margins. I have to say, Apple is quite, from what I know and see, is quite consistent.
Yeah, they look like it.
They look like it, but everybody just shifted to AI. It was like almost overnight. Yeah. And it's not a new technology. It's not like they didn't use it before and they just found out about it. Yeah. We have to start a department. It just became this thing that all of a sudden seems to have only the potential of growth and exponential.
Yeah, it's not quite there yet, like the self-driving. There are some limits here and there.
It's not artificial nor intelligent
But
yet.
other than that...
Other than that, the name doesn't reflect what it is. It is algorithmic, but, sure, like all digital media or digital tools are.
Yeah.
But it's a promise and a premise and the need to hook onto this. And so it was really disappointing to me because I knew some of the work they were doing and it was deep work and then it kind of like switched, not to say they're not doing it anymore, but you can see where their focus just switched like AI, everything is AI. And I'm like, is it what you're about? Is it what you want to do? It's like almost there's this compulsion right now, compulsion to be on the wave, to surf, with the cool kids or you'll drown. This is the thinking and it's so misleading and it's so disappointing
I guess it happens regularly, but I feel like the Microsoft example feels much bigger. It feels like a large company doing this very quickly, and I'm not sure, I don't recall seeing it quite like
bigger,
that.
And it's these spirals always happened at some extent, but now it's especially the last 3 years, like if we just look, the last 2 years. Let's talk about crypto, NFT. You're now saying AI. Like it went from crypto, NFT, verse, and now it's AI in less than 2 years. Yeah. Like you just need to go into LinkedIn and see people's titles. They're like expert in, like 3 months later. I actually do screenshots of that because I'm amused by that. Certain people like, it's been 3 months. I'm an AI expert now. I'm a metaverse expert now.
I guess someone is running a machine somewhere trying to generate the next thing to be excited about because at this rate, you're going to need a new one.
And it tells you something that nobody's sticking to it because nobody's catching. Because what they're forgetting, this whole equation of technology, that on the other side of the machine, there are human beings. I know we think that we'll build it and they will come. It doesn't happen like that. No. It never did. It never will. Not all humans are just interested in applying AR or VR or AI right now. You can bring the food to them. They're not going to eat. I want to say that COVID in particular is the one thing that gives me, I want to say, hope. Not that COVID was by any means positive in any level. But what it did do is that it forced all of us to go digital at once. Yeah. With a system that wasn't ready. I don't know if it will ever be ready. No. And I used to have conversations when everything moved to digital. Was the beginning of VR, AR hype of the moment. Actually, it was more VR hype. And I had conversations with people. They're like, oh my God, this is it. Oh my God. No one will ever go back to the office. Oh my God. I just went to the gym on VR and I'm never going to go. Oh my God, this is it. Everybody are on it. Yeah, I can be in this little closet for the rest of my life. And I had 3 questions. The first one was, do people choose to be on these platforms, or are they forced to be? Yeah. That's a very big yes. Everyone were forced to be online, but did anybody want to be online? That's a very different motivation to be part of a system. Second of all, it was 3 months into the pandemic where people are talking about Zoom fatigue and having, it was like a Zoomcast, and I'm like, I want to show you the killer app of 2020, and I had like a loaf of sourdough bread. Explain this, because what it did cause as a retro action was, yes, everyone were onboarded by force, but everybody also immediately felt the negative impact of it, and we're like not just rejecting it, but yearning for the complete opposite of it. So how do you deal with that? Yeah. And number 3 was there was nothing. It wasn't ready. No. It was honestly, Zoom managed to catch up quite quickly, but it wasn't a good time to get everyone online digitally. Oh my God.
They did a lot of work very quickly.
They did a lot of work really quickly, but look at today when somebody tells you, like, let's have a Zoom meeting, and like, you know, people are just like collapsing. Like, oh my God. And, you know, we have our preferred, like, I have complete, all conversation, like, Teams versus Zoom versus Blue Jeans still exists.
Oh, yeah, that exists as
we
well.
all have our preferred.
Yeah, that one never works. This
yeah.
one,
and we don't want any of them.
No.
The new luxury is actually in-person meetings.
Yeah.
Because we are so fatigued. Students are refusing. You know, I have friends that have kids that, for some reason, they can't go to school right now, and they rather drop out of college or semester than to do it on Zoom.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, of course. It makes sense.
Of course. Yeah, it makes sense today. You would think, like, of course they want to stay home and do Zoom, but imagine, okay, if you were to only be on Zoom now for 3 months, how giddy will you be?
I mean, even I enjoy going to the office now. So.
Exactly. So this is the misconception of all these technological hypes. It's the belief that we'll just have to make it. First of all, the biggest flaw, we'll make it. It doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
That's like already unacceptable because people are over that cliff. But let's say even if it is perfect and it works as it should, does it offer a better alternative than what's existing? And even if it does it mean that people will adapt it?
Yeah.
You're forgetting the humans are weird.
Yeah.
My whole talk was about, like, we're weird. You know, and that's actually awesome.
Yeah, that's the whole
we wouldn't make half the stuff we're doing if we weren't weird, but we have to accept it, that it's not like a regime, like, we will make it and humanity. This is not Borg. No. This is not Borg culture. Thank the Vulcan gods. But this is the biggest misconception. Just make it, and that's all you need to do. Culture, it will adapt. People will adapt. Behaviors will adapt. It just doesn't work like that. Yeah. And I'm happy it doesn't.
Yeah. Is there any hope for...
There's always hope.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah, just end the question there. No, but
there you go.
Is there any hope for some kind of, I don't know, I guess culture change where even big organizations can start to figure out some of that? Like, will we stop having...
It's called a recession, and it's happening.
Yeah, but...
I'm sorry, we have to say it out loud. We are in a recession. No, I'm not clapping for it. No, we have to accept it. We are already in a recession.
Oh, yes, it's more like, hi, I'm Frederick, I'm in a recession.
And what do I mean by recession is, again, the Western idea of recession is like, we're just not growing exponentially with double digit anymore, which I'm cool with, because we can't. It's just not realistic. So let's not call it a recession. I think, you know, we're now at this point, you know, like the Gartner hype cycle of like, everybody here, and then it you know, we're at the plateau of creativity right now, but we have like so many technologies we don't even know which ones to invest. So I go, is it AI? Yeah, well, I just slap it on AR and like make some, put it on a device and put an app on it. We kind of lost it. I think we are moving into a slower pace because of the reality of there are so many devices, there are so many technologies that you can introduce 5 times a year, and that will succeed. And I think I am seeing it on smaller scale of companies recalibrating and kind of like either getting the slap on the face or realizing it will come, and still not doing the action of like, let's now think long-term prosperity. They're still like looking to adjust like short-term, but how can we make it shorter? Still, I think it's reality will bite them, then. We're seeing it, you know, the layoffs that are happening, and this is reality biting, because even within this economy of I want to say pretense growth and equity, because these companies don't have that money. They have the idea that is valued by, you know, these billionaires don't have the money in the bank. Let's admit it. So I'm seeing some realization of that, and we're seeing the repercussions of I want to say, careless toxic optimism of exponential growth that is slapping them. I think it's happening slowly. My biggest concern is that the market became, I want to say, so centralized that small developers don't have any more like the funds, the sources, the ability to thrive on their own.
Yeah.
Most startups are like, build to sell.
Yeah.
Make it, sell it to Google, Amazon, whatever.
That's a depressing thing as well.
It's depressing, but it's also a necessity because nobody's going to give you money if you don't show you're going to grow by this, and you can't grow by this if you don't go with them. I think it will have to go back. It has to, or it will just stay stale, and we'll just keep doing these like hype marketing stunts.
Yeah, that's more like being on hold almost.
Yeah, but this is actually a very interesting period when things are stale, are where small movements become more important as well.
Yeah.
When you're in the middle of a tornado, your actions don't really matter. All you want to do is like grasp to something. Don't take me away. It actually, this stillness, I think, could eventually create the more interesting things, the more nuanced changes that we need, and not these like life-altering, all-consuming technologies that we're all going to use all the time. We're never going to have to sleep, ever. We're just going to be online all the time.
Let's come up
on our way to Mars in an autonomous rocket.
Yeah,
like, come on.
Then you'll be able to sleep.
Probably not.
No.
Because you'll be wired directly. You won't need sleep. Your body won't.
Yeah, but that's a good point. I mean, some kind of stagnation gives some kind of breathing room to find.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to have a plateau after we've been climbing all this time. I'm freaking tired, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
I'm exhausted every time I don't want to open my devices anymore. I'm already exhausted by the thought of what will pop in. I'm like, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I don't want to know, but I still do it because it's in the job title.
I should try to find a balance. It's hard.
And the younger generation, let me tell you.
Oh yeah.
I like them. I like them. They're getting bad rap, but I'm like, they are cynical and bored and rebellious, and I love them for
perfect.
it. Exactly. I'm like, Gen X. It's like Gen X reborn. I am hopeful. And also, they are living in a different world where we grew up. They're living in a world where they're not, excited about all these new things. They're used to it. They are more critical about it because they don't... For them, it's a given, and now they can look and ask, how can we make this better and valuable, and not just how can we make it because it can be done.
Yeah.
So I have hope.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's something I've been wondering a little bit about as well. It feels to me as if we're becoming at least a little bit better at seeing through those big hypes.
Yeah.
And I've been wondering, is that hopefully a general trend, or is it just me happening to listen to more sane people?
It's a general trend. I think it's a general trend. Let's call ourselves the mainstream, the participants.
Yeah.
The participants are noticing the music is a bit loud. The people outside the party are like, I don't know, it sounds very loud. And the neighbors, regulation, and policymakers are noticing the music is way too loud, and and I know a lot of people in tech don't like to be told what to do.
No.
But with all this disruption, there's a price. It's when you break things, they get broken, and you can't fix everything. And sometimes you can rebel within the boundaries. And I know that a lot of people in tech are like anti-regulation. And I get it, because technology gives you the idea that everything is possible and exponential.
Yeah, sure.
In a lab, it is. Yeah. Not in real life, when it actually affects real lives and people, and it becomes a political tool of radicalizing, of mobilizing, of hooking up people. That, I'm sorry, this is beyond where the power of tech on its own should be. Yeah. And I always give as an example the pharmaceutical companies that were, crying and kicking and screaming when regulation came to them. Like, human lives are going to be affected, the health, people will die. Well, they didn't.
Yeah.
And actually, regulation that was applied into pharmaceutical application did not hurt their profit. I hear they're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I've heard so. It's very strange.
They're okay.
Yeah.
And it created, when it was applied, more trust and more trust and more power to the people and to governments to stop harm when it was happening. So I'm sorry for, I'm a little rebel, but I like to be told what to do so I can rebel within the frame. That's my type of rebellion. But sometimes it's okay to be a responsible adult and say, like, maybe my aspirations are not the only thing that matters.
It sounds very strange. But
it's really weird. It doesn't mean you have to erase them, but maybe you can understand that, with great power comes great responsibility. And technology has so much power now, like almost no other industry before. Maybe the oil industry had, the coal industry had. But we are talking now, this is not an industry, it's a global infrastructure.
Yeah.
There is nothing that technology doesn't affect. So, we're no longer little butterfly. We're like Godzillas. Like, I want to do it my way. And maybe we can at least appreciate that the impact of our ideas is affecting so many layers of society and the planet and industry, and then you can decide if you say, like, fuck it, I don't care, Elon Musk, or to maybe restrain yourself a little bit or stop for one more instance before you release, before you develop, and just ask yourself, can I make it better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could I make it less bad at least?
Yeah. Step in the right direction. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot to think about. It's all very interesting.
It has to be. It's technology.
Yeah, we're like overgrown teenagers. Haven't realized our size, so we're still waving around.
We are overgrown teenagers, and I understand it. Again, the geeks are important. Nobody liked us. Now they kind of can't do without us.
No, they still don't like us.
They do. They kind of want to be with us. Come on, if you're a mother and your child wants to hook up with a tech entrepreneur or a doctor, you'll be like, go where the money and status and future is. The tech guy. Oh, computer science, amazing. What a good match. Like the social status of tech, anyone in tech has gone so high that I'm seeing so many people that are just kind of like, I want to say grabbing these titles. I'm like, well, I used a computer once, so I'm like an AI expert. So it is very sexy, it seems.
Apparently.
Apparently. That's what they think, so.
Yeah.
I always thought it was sexy, but now other people do, so.
It's a weird world. This was super interesting. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for interviewing me.
Yeah.
Tack för att just du lyssnar på Kodsnack. Om du vill stödja oss, varför inte tipsa en bekant om podden? Eller lämna en recension i till exempel iTunes eller något annat ställe där det går att sätta betyg på poddar. Du kan också stödja oss genom att köpa oss en kopp kaffe på Coffee, ko-fi.com/kodsnack. Alla pengar går direkt till att göra podden bättre och trevligare. Du kan också komma och hänga i vår Slack-kanal. Länk finns på kodsnack.se, precis som alla andra länkar och all annan info kopplat till varje avsnitt. Sist men inte minst finns det också en länk till vår Spreadshop-butik där du kan köpa tröjor och andra prylar med kodsnacktryck. Återigen, tusen tack för att du lyssnar. Vi hörs.
Let me put it this way, Mr. Raymer. The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error.